Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Safari Live again. It's great to have you. My name is Byron, and on camera this morning is Brian with the thumb. And welcome to Louise and Kirsten in the final control this morning. We have just found this male and female lion. They're starting to move. They're very close to camp. These calls, as I mentioned earlier, the roars have been echoing through the camp. It's been wonderful to hear them and to be alerted of where they are. And on the other vehicle this morning, we've got a lovely surprise. My good friend James is back. He's back from leave, so you'll see him shortly. Let's see where these lions are going and see if we can follow them for a bit. We are coming. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, great. Look at the big male at the back. Scent marking his territory, and the little cubs. Oh wow, look at it. Female's playing, but that male out of his sight. Bit of growling going on. Oh, have a look. There's just lions everywhere. And the little cubs, they look fat and healthy. Now, one of the reasons why they're moving so quickly, let me just check quickly how many cubs are here, and then I'll tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can only see 6 cubs at the moment. There's 7, there's another one at the back. There should be 8. Probably around. Well, let's just have a good look. So one of the reasons why I think these lionesses and these lions are moving so quickly is because that male's just joined up with them. I'll tell you why. Even though this Birmingham male is one of the fathers of these cubs, lionesses are still very, very nervous to have males or big males around because they can occasionally get quite aggressive without even knowing it. So let's just double check the cubs here at the moment. I've just moved behind the tree. Let me see if I can get you a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All 8 cubs are here. Yeah. The little one there's a little one coming. He's actually behind this male and female. We'll probably see him shortly. He's moving just through some thick bush. I'll tell you when he does come out. And there he's starting to move out into the open. There we go. He's following the male and female, and you'll see him shortly coming to screen. There we go. So as I was saying, I think these lions, the female's a little bit nervous having this male around, especially because he's looking to mate with the female. And they're just very, very careful because they've got these little cubs. They don't want anything to happen to them. And these males, even when they are looking to mate, they can become quite aggressive because he's now trying to protect this female. He's trying to mate with her. So, and you can see that little cub pause, and it's watching the male very carefully. You see that just slight hesitation, wanting to make sure that the male recognizes the cub that is there. Some of the other guests enjoying this lion sighting with us, guests from the camps in this area. Really a lovely, lovely sighting. So they've now moved right down into the drainage line. It looks like they're moving through this thick bush down towards the drainage line. It might be tricky to keep up with them. I'm just trying to see. It's always tough. Now we need to make a decision. Do we go around to the other side of the drainage line? Do we think they are going to cross through there? Or do we stick around and look if there isn't a gap to get in? Because we're not sure if these lines are going to stay in this area or just move straight into the dense drainage line and stay down there for the day. It is warming up quite a bit. Let's just have a look. Alright, while we have a look where these lines are going and try and work out exactly where they are, let's get an update from James. We've just had the lines come out. Have a look. All the cubs in the road. Fantastic. Now they're heading back towards the drainage line. So they're in and out of this thick area. Have a look. There's the male. Let's see if there's any interaction between the cubs and the males. Oh, look at that, everyone. Almost just a little quick greeting. These little cubs are very vocal at the moment. Not sure what that male is. That phlegm and grimace. You can see he's probably picked up on the scent of a lion there, or something that he wants to work out what it is. So they smell and taste and then put that scent on the Jacobson's organ at the back of their palate, and that's the phlegm and grimace that they do. Look at that. Looks almost like he's smiling. These rest of the lions are moving through into the thicket there. So we've got a question from Velma who wanted to know, what age do the lions start scent marking? And it's usually when the males become dominant and are able to set up a territory for themselves. So, I mean, they'll spray the urine around and the prides will scent mark their territory, but I think males, for example, probably from about 5-6 years old, when they start moving into their prime, that would probably be the time that they do start scent marking. Morning, everybody. And then females, maybe even earlier, from about 3 to 4 years old, they'll start urinating, and that will then probably mark their territory, and those females become part of that pride very, very quickly. For males, they need to then set up territories later on and probably have to compete with other big dominant males in the area, and they're usually only able to do that when they do get a bit older. So I would say probably 5-6 years old, somewhere around there, maybe even a bit later, depending on the competition in the area. Let's just see if we can maybe get through here. It is very thick at the moment, as you can see. It looks like there's a possibility that they've actually just laid down. So let's have a look and see if we can't get a view. Oh wait, here's the big male again. And I think the rest of the pride might get a view. Yeah, they're just to the back. But there's that male out in the open. Got an interesting question from Lord Tifron, and they would like to know, what age do the cubs start showing sexual dimorphism? And that's basically when the males and females start looking different. And I've noticed from about 8 months to a year old, you start seeing little signs of fluff around the necks of the young males. At this age, you won't be able to see any sign. These cubs are still quite young. They are now about, I think, about 5 or 6 months old, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just trying to think. June, July, August, September, October, about 5 months old, I think. And so they're still a little bit young to see any signs, but I'd say about a year, maybe a bit more, you'll just start seeing little tufts of hair forming around the necks of these lion cubs. But you'll really start seeing it at 2.5 years. You'll start seeing a large difference between the young males and the young females. Can you hear that sound? These cubs are very vocal at the moment, probably trying to suckle it. Yeah, looks like it. They're growling and squealing and moaning, wanting milk, I think. Even though they're at an age now where they're drinking water and they're feeding on meat, these lion cubs still try their luck and still try to get some milk from the mothers. Lael has asked us a question about the fighting, and if lions do get into a fight, do we keep our distance? And yes, definitely. We try and keep our distance most of the time. So, we're very sensitive when we are following these animals. We don't want to disturb them in any way. So, Lael, what usually happens is if we do see them fighting, if these big males get into an altercation, we'll definitely back off a little bit, because also it could be potentially dangerous for us if one or two of these males react towards a vehicle if it's too close. Again, we don't want to cause them to feel any threat or danger. So, especially when they are fighting, obviously that aggression and adrenaline and testosterone running through their bodies, they can perhaps become slightly unpredictable. So what we'll do is we'll just back off, view them from a distance, and see what happens. That scar is looking a lot better on this lion. We've been seeing him the last few days. You can see it's starting to heal somewhat. I spoke about it the other day, but these big cats, lions, leopards, cheetah, and most animals in general, but especially these big cats, they have an amazing ability to heal very, very quickly. I've seen lions being cut open from branches when they were hunting, branches sticking out of long grass that they didn't see. Seen it on lions and leopards, in fact. Huge cuts around the legs and that, and you'd think, we honestly would think that these animals were not going to survive, and then all of a sudden, with them cleaning and looking after the wound 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, almost completely healed. It's incredible. And this was a nasty gash, a nasty scar. It is still looking a little bit sore, but it's definitely healed within the last week compared to when I first saw it when I got here. And again, there seems to be a change of weather, the cloud cover coming over now. You see that bit of a cloud bank coming through there. And Game has asked us, why is it that this male, or generally, the males tend to lie a little bit further away from the pride? So I think probably one of two reasons. One, we spoke about it earlier, the females are a little bit nervous and a little bit wary with these big males around, even though these males know that these cubs are theirs, and there's generally no danger to the cubs from these big males, but they can, they're really big and powerful, and if they snap, they can get very aggressive and they can cause some damage. So possibly the lionesses just want to keep the cubs a little bit away from the male. And the other thing is, maybe the male just isn't that interested in getting too close to the cubs. He doesn't want to be bothered by little cubs climbing over him. So that could possibly be the other reason. Those would be my two guesses. And because these males also don't always stick around with the pride. What we've been seeing the last week or so, the reason why these males are around, I think, is they're trying to mate with the females. And that's why they're following one or two of them. Oh, look, they've all just settled down now. The calls have stopped. And they are resting. Even the male has put his head down. Very peaceful right now. Still just a few bird calls, starlings and fork-tailed drongos, Cape turtle dove, all these birds calling around us at the moment. That tuber guy has asked us what is present in the lion's urine that causes the males to know whether or not the females are in estrus. And I think it's a bit of estrogen in that they pick up, and obviously the hormonal levels change in the urine when these females do come into estrus and are ready to mate with. And the males, because of that Jacobson's organ at the top of their palate, they're able to pick up in those variations. So I think it's a mixture of hormones, estrogen, all of those, and these lions are then able to pick up on that change and then know that they're potentially ready to mate. So it's amazing, though, if you think about it, how these animals are able to use these additional sense organs to work out that now is the right time to mate, and they'll stick around with the females and spend, usually when they are mating, it could be anywhere between 3 days to a week, where these males will stay with the females, they'll mate, and then usually move off. And it's the same with leopard too. Leopards also do something similar, where, however, the females instigate the mating with the males. They'll go and look for a big dominant male, and when they do begin to mate, it'll be again 3 days to about a week on average. And those animals will stay together, that pair will stay together, they'll mate, and eventually split up again. These lionesses will stay with the pride, and the male will most likely patrol the rest of his territory, looking for other females to try and mate with. We're going to spend a little bit more time with these lions. James has got a rather large animal he'd like to show you. These lions have not moved at all. They are still resting, and the pride seem to have gone to sleep. Just the male is still sitting with his head up, but the rest of the pride completely resting, which is, it's actually lovely to see them. To see them like this. We're so fortunate we got them all moving around this morning, and all that excitement, the little cubs moving around and almost trying to get away from the males. It looked like, well, the females at least, they were a little bit nervous, it appeared, just wanting to move away. But look at that, they've settled down and they are resting. And I think if we're lucky, and again, I'm not too sure with this cloud cover coming over, because the temperature has cooled down a little bit, but I think possibly these lions could stay in this area for the course of the day. maybe move around a little bit later. Let me just have a look at how many lionesses there are here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 4 lionesses, but I do know that one of the other lionesses is with the other male, and I think they are not far from Djuma Dam. And I think it was those that we had this morning. They all came through, and then they moved. They then separated again. Because this is not the male that we had this morning. This is the different male. Maybe one of our viewers can just give me a hand. I can't remember now. How many of these Birmingham males are there? Are there still 4 of them around? A coalition of 4, if I remember correctly. But if one of you watching could just let me know. Because I've only seen these 2. This one and the other male. That they call Nat.Geo, I think the toothed one, or yeah. And this one I know they have called Nkuhuma, and the other one Nat.Geo. And thank you very much, Elizabeth. Just confirming there are the 4 Birmingham males. Yeah, and Elizabeth, I haven't seen the other 2. I've only seen these 2 since on this trip that I'm with you now. So I've been here just over a week, 10 days. I've only seen these 2 males. They've been hanging around these females non-stop. And as we saw, you know, these over the last week, these lions have been so successful with hunting buffalo. And they are doing very, very well. And that's maybe one of the other reasons why these males are hanging around, because the buffalo are plentiful at the moment in this area, and all these lions are getting to feed almost daily. Well, it has been daily the last week on buffalo. So yeah, they're doing very, very well. So if I was a male lion, I probably wouldn't leave either. All the females around, there's food. And Michael was saying originally this coalition, the Birmingham males, there were 5 of them, and 1 was killed by a buffalo. That's interesting. And for some reason, I've been working in the Sabi Sands for 6 years, almost 7 years, and there've been a lot of coalitions coming and going. I remember when I started out, there was a big coalition to the south of where we are now called the Mapocho. And the Mapocho coalition originally consisted of 6 males. You can imagine 6 big male lions. They basically ruled the Sabi Sands, this area that we are in. And they got to mate with females from many different prides, had a lot of cubs, but they were notorious. They were incredibly aggressive. They fought and killed many other lions. And in 2010, I'll never forget, I was guiding at the time, and in 2010 we actually had 2 of these males dominant on Londolozi, so just south of here, and those males, basically they controlled that central part of their territory. The other males had moved off. One of the older males had died, so there were only 5 of them left. And what had happened was we had a new coalition come into the area, and they were known as the Majinga line. And the Majinga line arrived. They came from the Manyaleti, if I'm not mistaken, and they obviously tried to extend their territory and came exploring. And they came through this northern part of the Sabi Sands, and they split up one evening, and one of the males bumped into those 2 Mapocho that were left, that were on Londolozi, and these lions fought, and those 2 males killed that male. It was incredibly interesting, and they actually fed on that male after they killed him. And the theory is that that's all dominance display. There's not usually signs of cannibalism within these big cats, but I believe that was just a sign of dominance, and because of all the aggression that those lions are feeling. So those 2 Mapochos actually killed that one Majinga lion male. And what happened then, all that commotion alerted the 4 brothers, the 4 Majinga lion brothers that were left. And they ran down, and they actually killed one of the Mapocho brothers, and the other one fled all the way to the western sector of the Sabi Sands, where he met up with the 4 remaining males. And I actually just want to let you get back to James. He's got something very interesting to show you quickly. These lions are still completely relaxed. However, I can hear something in the distance. Just trying to listen carefully, everyone. Just listen and see what we can hear. That was a very strange sound. I'm not sure what that was, but I think it was possibly an elephant. And I say that because I've heard the branches breaking, and they're definitely moving closer towards us. So I think it might have been some elephant. I'm just trying to look and see if I can't see anything. But I don't see anything. But look at these lions, still very much relaxed, and look at that one little cub over there resting its head on its mother's belly. Oh, isn't that amazing? That really is wonderful. And you know what, it is cute. It is just so cute to be able to see these little cubs and the way they interact with the adults and lie on their mothers, and it really is wonderful. And you can see something interesting on this cub. Have a look at those black spots, black or brownish spots all over the legs. And when they're very young, those spots are very clear, but the older they get, they start fading, and you'll see on the adult lionesses. And one, look at her legs there, those spots have faded, and they do start fading out completely. And there you can see there's still a few remains. You can just see slight color variation on the legs, but they've started to fade out almost completely. And the older they get, they do fade. But look at that, very interesting. Just listening to more of these elephants, or the branches breaking, these elephants in the distance. Morning Glory has asked a question about the coalitions, and would like to know, did I ever see the 2 Matimba males which have moved into the area around Londolozi? Yes, I have indeed seen them. They were around. I was there in September and took guests there on safari, and we got to see them. And beautiful males, also beautiful males. I was telling you all the story about the coalitions that we got in this area, and for some reason in the Sabi Sands we've had many coalitions over the years. And I was speaking about the Majingalan and the Mapocho lions. And I think I left you where the Mapocho had just killed one of the Majingalan. This was in 2010. They'd killed one of the Majingalan males, and the four remaining brothers of the Majingalan coalition came down. They killed one of the Mapocho and chased the other one off, and he ran all the way to the western sector, the western side of the Sabi Sands, where there were still three remaining Mapocho, joined up with his three brothers, and those four, but at that stage they were also moving towards the end of their lifespan. They were much older. They'd been controlling this area for many, many years. They'd been very, very successful, and those four lions eventually all died in that western sector. But those four Majingalan males then set up territory, and they started to slowly extend and expand that territory of theirs. And they took over a huge area within the Sabi Sands, mating with females from many different prides. And now those Majingalan, some of them are still around, also towards the western side of the Sabi Sands. But these Matimba males, who I was just asked about, have kind of come in and taken over, and they are the dominant males within the central part of the Sabi Sands at the moment. But then we've also got these Birmingham males, the four brothers, that are dominant all over this northern sector. So it's very interesting to see how the coalitions have been moving through and coming through these areas over the years. But that's fantastic, and it's very good, and I'll tell you why. It's because what it does is it renews the gene pool constantly. So you get these new males coming in, challenging for territory, challenging for dominance, and getting to mate with females, renews the gene pool, and you get a fresh set of cubs, or group of cubs, not a set, fresh group of cubs. And it is wonderful for pride dynamics because it will change on a regular basis. Sounds like the elephants have become a bit quieter. An interesting one from Rishi. Rishi would like to know, would any animals feed on a dead lion? So Rishi, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, you know, not necessarily, and I'll tell you why. Mainly, animals don't really feed on predators. I think because they eat so much protein and meat all the time, I don't think they taste very good. However, I have seen hyenas feeding on a lion carcass, and I think that's purely because hyenas are so opportunistic. They will literally eat just about anything. So I have seen hyena feeding on lions, and I spoke about it with those coalitions and the fighting. We did have those males feeding on one of the males that they killed, and I think that was purely a dominance display and a sign of aggression. It was not for food, not at all. I think because they fought and they killed this lion, they actually eventually ended up eating part of him. They didn't finish it, but they ate part of him and then moved on again. But generally speaking, other animals will not come and feed on a lion. The only thing possibly is hyena. And so yeah. I'm trying to think of if I've ever seen vultures feeding on lions. Not that I can think of, but I'm sure they would. Possibly, you know, vultures also. They just feed on carrion, so anything dead. And Little Xander, who's 4 years old, has just asked us an interesting question. Why do the lions like to lie on the elephant dung? So Xander, usually, and I think I was going to say maybe it's a comfortable pillow for them, but no. Usually what happens is lions as well as leopards often like to go and rub themselves against elephant or buffalo dung. And the reason for that is because the lions have a very strong smell. So the theory is that if they rub themselves against elephant or buffalo dung, it could possibly mask that smell, which means it could hide their smell, Xander. So what they would do is try and hide their smell, so if they are hunting any other animals, the chances of them being smelt are a lot less. And that's usually why they will try and lie or rub themselves in lion dung. I think in this situation here, I don't think it was a conscious choice. I just think they found a really nice little spot in the open to lie down, and there just happens to be elephant dung around them. Thank you, Zonda. It's so nice to have our young viewers watching and enjoying these animals with us, and hopefully learning something along the way. Don't forget, everyone, those of you who have just joined us, if you're watching, you can send your questions through at #SafariLive, or email us questions at WildEarthTV, and we will gladly answer your questions and comments. It's always just nice hearing from our viewers. Every now and then I get a crack of a branch and leaves moving. The elephant in this drainage line, I just can't see them. It's very, very thick. They're probably about, if I have to guess, probably about 100 meters away from us. So not too far, but can definitely hear them breaking the branches as they're feeding. This has been a great morning. We heard these lions I was speaking about it earlier, but we heard these lions calling this morning. We first initially just found a male and female, and then drove around and was surprised and very fortunate to see the rest of the pride come out and start running around with the cubs, and they were playing for a little bit, and then they've gone down to settle down, just resting. They've probably been moving around for most of the evening, so they're trying to conserve their energy, and they'll probably move around either later today or maybe early evening, early tonight, start moving around, possibly try and hunt if the lionesses feel like it, if they are hungry. This is just such a lovely sighting. We're going to sit here a little bit longer. And while I do that, my friend James is back and he's on drive. I'm sure he's enjoying it. Let's see what he's up to this morning. So the lions haven't really moved too much. Their heads are up. I think they're listening to the elephants breaking the branches. But what a great morning. A leopard, that's fantastic. And a new one for James by the sounds of things. I'm very jealous. For some reason, the leopards are avoiding me. And James on his first morning back gets to see a leopard. Now, I think that's just unfair. See some heads up, some still down, but I do not think these lions are going to move anytime soon. Just one interesting little bird. Let me see if it did sit down or sit on a branch somewhere. Excuse me a second. Affirmative, you can make your way straight in. I think what we're going to do, these lions, we've been spending quite a bit of time with them and they seem very relaxed and comfortable now. Let's drive on and see what else we can find. Love to find some more elephant. And who knows what else we can find this morning on Vuyatelo or on Djuma. Lovely to spend time with them and to get to see them moving around and running around this morning. Really was a great sighting. I'm sure they are going to hang around in this area for the course of the day, and if we're lucky we'll probably get to see them a bit later, maybe moving around a little bit more. Yeah, you can see they don't look like they want to move anytime soon. And as I said, the wonderful thing is it's actually cooled down quite a bit. This cloud cover's come over and it really has kept the temperature very cool, which is lovely. So I think that'll be our plan. Let's move out and see what else we can find and drive around a little bit more. I think with this cool weather we might be lucky, we might bump into a few other animals moving around still. Maybe we can find our own leopard. That would be birds calling. Is a beautiful breasted bird, orange-breasted bush shrike, which was calling. Oh, hang on, here we go. Here's another male and female. Here's the other male and female, right here. Okay, so remember I said that there was definitely the other male in this area. They've actually walked around behind us while we've been sitting there, and they've just come and laid down here, so not far from the Pride, and they're also resting. Okay, so they're all together now, which is wonderful. That's really great. Okay, we're going to continue moving out though. We did have a lovely view of these lions this morning too. James has managed to stay with that leopard. Let's head to him and see what it is up to. Oh dear, it sounds like James has got a struggling with these comms at the moment. That's okay. Stick with us. We're going to carry on and see what else we can find. And I'm sure we'll try and get that technical issue sorted out very quickly. Just watch out here, Brian. Some branches that we need to try and get through. Yeah, right. There we go.